I'm Erin Hayes, 26 years old, the dependable one in my family, always picking up the pieces in our Marietta home just outside Atlanta. I've spent years pouring my heart and savings into keeping my family afloat bills, groceries, you name it, while they fawned over my younger sister, their gold nugget. At a family dinner, the air thick with tension, Mom leaned in, her voice sharp. "You'll never compare to my gold nugget," she said, nodding toward my sister, who smirked with contempt. My chest tightened, but I didn't flinch. I stood, forced a smile, and said, "Then take care of yourselves." I walked out, the door slamming behind me. A week later, Mom's voice cracked over the phone. Desperate, "Help us. We can't." I cut her off. Cold as ice. Sell your gold nugget. What happened next flipped our family upside down. And I wasn't the one picking up the pieces anymore. If you've ever been taken for granted by family, drop your story in the comments. I'm reading everyone. Smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to see how this drama unfolds. You won't believe what they did next. It all started when I was 22, fresh out of college in Atlanta. I landed my first freelance marketing gig, pulling in just enough to cover my small apartment rent. My parents' house in Marietta felt like a second home, but things were shifting. Dad's construction job had hit a rough patch with fewer projects coming in, and Mom's part-time retail shifts weren't cutting it. One afternoon, Mom called, her voice strained. The car had broken down on the way to work, a faulty transmission that would cost $500 to fix. She didn't ask outright, but the hint was clear. I wired the money that same day, figuring it was a one-time thing to keep her commuting. Aunt Cynthia dropped by the house that weekend while I was visiting. She saw me handing Mom the receipt and patted my back. "You're so dependable, Erin," she said with a nod. It felt good at first, like I was stepping up as the older daughter, but soon the requests piled on. Dad needed help with his blood pressure meds after a doctor visit, $200 for the copay since their insurance had gaps. I covered it, dipping into my freelance earnings. Gas bills followed. $80 every few weeks because the old heater in their Marietta place guzzled fuel during Georgia winters. As months turned into a year, it became routine. I'd get texts midweek. "Fridge is looking empty. Can you spot us 100 for groceries?" I'd send it through the app, adding notes like, "For the basics." Meanwhile, Jamie started showing up with news stuff, a fresh phone case. Concert tickets, things Mom and Dad brushed off as her little treats. I didn't connect the dots yet, but it stung when I'd skip my own coffee runs to save cash. One evening, after wiring $300 for their water bill spike from a leaky pipe, I drove over to help Dad patch it myself, tools in hand. I spent hours under the sink while Jamie lounged on the couch, scrolling her phone. The pattern deepened. Freelance checks came irregularly, but I always prioritized them. A client paid late once, leaving me short on my own utilities, yet I still transferred $150 for Mom's eye exam. Aunt Cynthia noticed during a family barbecue, whispering, "You're the glue holding this together." Her words boosted me, but exhaustion crept in. I'd stay up late tweaking ad campaigns, only to wake to another request. Dad's truck tires wore out $470, and I footed it. Reasoning family came first. Jamie, on the other hand, floated through. She'd mention a slow freelance month in graphic design, but never pitched in. Instead, she'd get praise for landing a small gig, while my steady support went unmentioned. One time, after I sent $200 for their internet upgrade because streaming was glitchy, I overheard Mom telling neighbors how Jamie was so ambitious. It planted a seed of doubt, but I pushed it down, focusing on keeping the peace Lisa, my best friend from college, called it out over coffee downtown. "You're stretching yourself thin for them," she said. But I defended it as temporary. Deep down, though, the transfers added up 80 here, 115 there. I started a simple note in my phone, tracking them casually, not realizing how it'd grow. By my 23rd birthday, it was clear I was their safety net, and Jamie was the star they polished. The asks evolved. Random Wednesdays brought grocery lists $40 to $100. Sundays meant gas for Dad's commutes. Even Jamie's crises filtered through $200 for her certification exam fee. I handled it all, assuring myself it built trust. But as freelance gigs picked up, so did their reliance. A broken AC unit cost $900. My deposit turned into full payment when they couldn't square it. "We'll pay back soon," Mom promised. But it never happened. Looking back, those early wires set the tone. I was the fixer, the quiet one, making ends meet in our Marietta setup, while the praise flowed elsewhere. It wasn't dramatic at first, just a slow drain that I didn't question until later. As the months rolled on, the requests grew bolder. Dad's back injury from a construction site flare-up meant another round of physical therapy sessions, costing $300 out of pocket since their plan covered only basics. I sent the money without hesitation, pulling from a client payment I'd just received for a logo redesign. Mom followed up with a call about the roof leaking after a Georgia Storm 400 to patch it before mold set in. I handled that too, coordinating with a local Marietta contractor over the phone while juggling my own deadlines. Jamie, meanwhile, landed a part-time gig editing photos for a small studio, but it barely lasted. Mom raved about her creative spark during our weekly calls, even as I wired $120 for their car insurance renewal. I'd see Jamie's social media updates nights out at Atlanta bars, a new laptop she needed for work, and wonder where the cash came from. One weekend, after transferring $250 for Dad's new work boots and safety gear, I stopped by the house. Jamie was there, showing off a pair of earrings Mom had bought her just because. Aunt Cynthia chimed in from the kitchen. "Our girls got style." No one mentioned my latest wire. The imbalance sharpened. Lisa pulled me aside after a yoga class downtown. "You're funding their lifestyle while scraping by," she pointed out, but I waved it off as family duty. Still, it nagged when Mom texted for $180 to cover a vet bill for their dog right after posting pictures of a family outing to a Falcons game. Tickets courtesy of Jamie's connections. I started questioning the urgency, but kept sending, tallying in my mind how my freelance hours vanished into their needs. Bills stacked higher. The electric company threatened cutoff after a hot summer spiked usage $280. I paid it, skipping my own AC repair. Dad's hours dipped again, leading to a $400 gap in mortgage. I bridged it, reasoning stability mattered. Jamie, though, got a free pass. Mom covered her phone plan temporarily, using funds I'd indirectly provided. During a neighborhood block party in Marietta, Dad bragged to friends about Jamie's upcoming opportunities, while I stood there, invisible, having just wired $100 for party supplies. Lisa's words echoed louder after that. "We met for brunch, and she laid it out. They're leaning on you because it's easy." I admitted the toll late nights pitching campaigns, only to redirect earnings homeward. One evening, after sending $300 for Mom's dental crown, I caught her Facebook post a shopping spree photo with Jamie, captioned, "Treating our gem." The earrings from before gleamed, and comments poured in praising Jamie's glow. It hit me then the money I'd labeled essentials funded extras for her. Aunt Cynthia noticed my distance at a family lunch. "Don't resent success," she advised, but her tone favored Jamie. Dad chimed in about Jamie's potential, ignoring my steady contributions. I kept quiet, but the seed took root. Transfers continued 90 for gas, 150 for groceries, but I began screenshotting them, a quiet habit forming. Jamie's freelance slow periods meant indirect asks, like 200 for her software subscription, funneled through Mom. The favoritism crystallized. At a cousin's wedding in Atlanta, Mom gushed over Jamie's dress, bought with savings, while I wore an old one to cut costs. Lisa texted me later, "See the pattern?" I did, but held on, convincing myself change was coming, yet the wires persisted, draining my buffer as Jamie basked in the spotlight. It wasn't jealousy, it was the slow realization that my role was fixed, and theirs wasn't fair. By my 25th birthday, the weight of their expectations had settled in. I was still the one wiring money, keeping the Marietta house running, while my sister basked in their praise. That Sunday, we gathered for a family dinner at Mom and Dad's place. The table was set with fried chicken and collards, a spread I'd chipped in $50 for the groceries. Jamie sat across, scrolling her phone, her new earrings catching the light. Mom fussed over her, adjusting a napkin, while Dad sipped his sweet tea, barely glancing my way. Aunt Cynthia, visiting from across town, chatted about local gossip. The conversation turned to Jamie's latest big break, a freelance design pitch she hadn't even submitted. Mom beamed. "She's our gold nugget, always shining," she said, her voice warm with pride. Jamie smirked, not looking up from her screen. My stomach twisted, but I kept my fork moving, chewing slowly. Dad nodded. "She's going places," Aunt Cynthia added. "You should be proud of her." Aaron. The room felt smaller, their words a quiet jab at my years of grinding to keep them afloat. I tried to shift the topic, mentioning a new client I'd landed for a marketing campaign. Mom cut me off. "That's nice, but Jamie's got real vision." Jamie's smirk widened, a silent taunt. My pulse quickened. I'd wired $300 just that week for their water heater repair, yet here they were, lifting her up. Dad leaned back, his voice casual but sharp. "Aaron, you'll never compare to our gold nugget." The table went quiet. Aunt Cynthia chuckled softly, as if it were a joke. Mom's eyes flicked to me, daring me to react. My chest burned. Every transfer flashing through my mind, thousands over years, my savings drained for their bills. I set my fork down, hands steady. "If she's so golden," I said, my voice low, "then take care of yourselves." I stood, my chair scraping the hardwood. Jamie's smirk faltered, Mom's face hardened. "Don't be dramatic." "Aaron," she snapped. Aunt Cynthia reached out, her tone soothing but patronizing. "Honey, don't take it so personally." Dad just stared at his plate, silent as always. I grabbed my purse, keys jangling. "I've been carrying you all for years," I said, looking at Mom. "If Jamie's your star, let her shine." I walked out, the door slamming behind me, the sound sharp in the Marietta evening. My hands shook as I climbed into my car, the weight of their words still heavy. I'd spent years believing I could earn their respect, but that dinner stripped it bare. They'd never see me. Back at my apartment, I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, the screenshots I'd started saving every transfer. Every note felt heavier now. I opened my laptop, pulling up a spreadsheet I'd ignored too long. I wasn't ready to confront them fully, but something had shifted. Lisa texted, checking in. "You okay after that dinner?" she asked. I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I added another entry, $50 for groceries. Dated that day? The tally was climbing. A quiet record of my role. Driving through Atlanta that night, I passed the glow of downtown. The city felt alive, but I felt hollowed out. Their voices echoed Mom's praise for Jamie, Dad's cutting remark, Aunt Cynthia's dismissal. I wasn't jealous. I was done being invisible. The dinner wasn't just a moment, it was the breaking point. I'd given everything, and they'd thrown it back in my face. My fingers hovered over my banking app, the urge to send another wire fading. For the first time, I wondered what would happen if I stopped. 3 days after that dinner, I couldn't shake the sting of their words. I drove back to the Marietta house, my laptop tucked under my arm, a spreadsheet open with every transfer I'd sent, years of payments laid bare. Mom answered the door, her face tight, expecting an apology. Dad sat at the kitchen table, flipping through bills. Jamie lounged in the living room, earbuds in, oblivious. Aunt Cynthia was there, stirring tea, her eyes wary. I set my laptop on the counter. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady. Mom folded her arms. "About what your tantrum?" I opened the spreadsheet, turning the screen toward them. "This, $26,000. That's what I've sent you since I was 22, mortgage gaps, medical bills, insurance, you name it." I scrolled, pointing to entries: $300 for Dad's therapy, $400 for the roof, $120 for car insurance. Dad's brow furrowed. "What's this about?" "Aaron," he asked, his tone gruff. I kept going. "I've covered your life while you praised Jamie. I'm done." Jamie pulled out an earbud, scoffing. "You're keeping score, that's low." Mom's eyes narrowed. "Those were gifts. Aaron, we never asked you to play martyr." Aunt Cynthia sipped her tea, nodding. "Family doesn't tally favors." I leaned forward. "Gifts? I skipped my own bills to keep your lights on. You called Jamie your gold nugget while I paid for her phone plan." Jamie rolled her eyes. "Get over yourself. I don't need your charity." My jaw tightened, but I stayed calm. "Then you don't need my money either," I said, looking at Mom. "If Jamie's so golden, let her cover you." Mom's face flushed. "You're being selfish," she snapped. "After all we've done, you throw this in our faces." Dad slammed his hand on the table. "This is disrespectful. You don't get to rewrite our family." I didn't flinch. "I'm not rewriting. I'm stating facts. $26,000. Read the dates, the notes. It's all there." I pushed the laptop closer. Aunt Cynthia tried to mediate. "Aaron, calm down. We're grateful." "But this isn't how family works." "Grateful," I shot back. "You've never said it. You've leaned on me for years." Then laughed when I wasn't enough. Jamie stood, her voice sharp. "You're just mad I'm their favorite. Deal with it." I met her gaze. "Favorite or not, I'm not your bank anymore." The room went still. Mom's lips parted, but no words came. Dad stared at the screen, silent. I closed the laptop. "I'm setting boundaries. No more wires, no more emergencies. If you need help, ask Jamie, she's your star." Mom's voice trembled. "You're abandoning us." I shook my head. "I'm choosing me." I grabbed my keys and walked out, the door clicking shut. Softer this time, but final. My heart pounded as I drove back to Atlanta, their accusations ringing in my ears. Lisa called that evening, her voice urgent. How'd it go? I told her about the spreadsheet, their denials. "They called it gifts," I said. Bitterness creeping in. She didn't hesitate. "They're gaslighting you. You did the right thing." I opened my banking app, staring at the transfer history. Years of my life, reduced to numbers. I wasn't angry anymore, just clear. I canceled the automatic payments I'd set up for their utilities, my fingers steady on the screen. Back in my apartment, I sat at my desk, the spreadsheet still open, the weight of their words selfish. Disrespectful tried to pull me back, but I held firm. They'd built their world on my sacrifices, then dismissed me. No more. I saved the file, a record of what I'd given, and closed my laptop. The silence felt new, like a door opening to something else. A week after I walked out, my phone buzzed with Mom's name. I let it ring, my stomach nodding as her voicemail played. "Aaron, we're in trouble. The bank's calling about missed payments. We can't manage. Please help." Her voice cracked, desperate, but I remembered their denials, their smirks. I called back, my tone flat. "Sell your gold nugget," I said, referencing Jamie, and hung up. The words felt cold, final. My phone lit up again, texts from Mom, Dad, even Aunt Cynthia. "You're heartless," Mom wrote. Dad's message was blunt. "You owe us better," Aunt Cynthia urged. "Don't tear us apart over money." Jamie's text stung most. "You're pathetic. Playing victim." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my banking app and deleted their account from my saved contacts. No more wires, no more rescues. The fallout came fast. Without my transfers, their Marietta house hit a wall. The mortgage company sent a late notice, $400 overdue, a gap I'd always filled. Dad's construction firm cut his hours further, a casualty of Atlanta's slowing market. Mom's retail shifts couldn't cover the shortfall. Jamie, still jobless, posted about tough times on social media, but no offers to help. I heard through a neighbor that their power flickered, risking cutoff. They'd leaned on me so long, they'd forgotten how to stand. Lisa met me at a coffee shop downtown, her eyes sharp. "They're scrambling because you stopped," she said, sipping her latte. I nodded, the guilt fading. They called me selfish, but I'm just done. She squeezed my hand. "You're not their ATM." Her words anchored me. I blocked Mom and Dad's numbers that night. The silence a strange relief. Aunt Cynthia tried one last time, showing up at my apartment unannounced. "Aaron, they're struggling," she said, standing in my doorway. "Family steps up." I crossed my arms. I stepped up for years. "Where was Jamie?" She sighed, deflecting. "She's trying. You know that." I shook my head, then let her try harder. I closed the door, my resolve firm. The community started noticing. At a Marietta grocery store, I ran into Mrs. Thompson, a neighbor who'd always liked Mom's holiday parties. "Heard your folks are behind on bills," she said, her tone soft but curious. I shrugged, keeping it vague. "They'll figure it out." Word spread fast in our tight-knit suburb. Friends stopped inviting Mom to book club, blaming her for family drama. Jamie's posts got fewer likes, her golden shine dimming. I kept my distance, focusing on my freelance work. A new client contract came through, a $500 deposit for a local boutique's ad campaign. I deposited it into my savings, not theirs, for the first time. I paid my own phone bill without checking their needs first. Lisa noticed the change. "You're lighter," she said over brunch, grinning. I smiled back, feeling it too. Mom tried calling from a new number a few days later, her voice frantic. "Aaron, we're drowning. The bank's threatening foreclosure." I stayed calm. "Sell your gold nugget," I repeated, and blocked the number. Jamie messaged me on a friend's account, accusing me of abandoning them. "You think you're better than us," she wrote. I didn't respond. Their chaos wasn't mine to fix. The reality hit them hard. Dad took a side gig driving rideshare, long hours for little pay. Mom sold her old jewelry at a pawn shop, something she'd once bragged about keeping. Jamie applied for retail jobs, her freelance dreams on hold. Their world, built on my support, was cracking, and I wasn't there to patch it. Back in my apartment, I opened my laptop, the spreadsheet untouched. It wasn't about keeping score anymore, it was proof I'd given enough. I closed it, ready to move forward. My life finally my own, months after cutting them off. I stood in my Atlanta apartment, sunlight streaming through the window. My life felt like mine again. I'd landed a steady contract with a local brewery, designing their social media campaign for $800 a month. The money went to my rent, groceries, and a new pair of running shoes, small wins I hadn't allowed myself before. I started therapy, meeting a counselor downtown who helped me untangle years of guilt from responsibility. Lisa joined me for coffee every Saturday, her laughter grounding me as I rebuilt. My family's world unraveled without my support. Dad's rideshare gig barely covered gas, let alone their overdue mortgage. Mom took extra shifts at a discount store, but the math didn't add up. They sold their dining room table, the one I'd bought a tablecloth for, to a neighbor for quick cash. Jamie, no longer their gold nugget, faced rejections from retail jobs and moved to a cramped apartment in Decatur. Her freelance dreams stalled. Word got around Marietta's tight-knit streets. Neighbors whispered about Mom's missed payments, and their annual barbecue went unhosted. A first in years. Friends stopped calling, tired of their excuses. I didn't check their social media anymore. Lisa kept me updated, forwarding a post where Jamie complained about betrayal. I shrugged it off. My focus was on my work, pitching logos, crafting ads, building a portfolio that felt like a fresh start. One evening, I met a new client at a midtown cafe, a bookstore owner who loved my mock-up. She paid $700 up front, more than I'd kept for myself in months back when I was their lifeline. Therapy sessions peeled back layers. You gave to prove your worth, my counselor said, and I nodded, seeing it clearly. I'd thought love meant emptying my pockets, but it had only emptied me. Now, I set boundaries, saying no without explaining. Lisa cheered me on, calling it my new superpower. One weekend, I joined a hiking group in Piedmont Park, my steps lighter on the trails. I bought a small plant for my apartment, a splash of green that felt like hope. I didn't hear from Mom or Dad directly. A cousin mentioned they'd moved to a smaller rental on the edge of Marietta, their credit shot from missed payments. Jamie sent one last message through a mutual friend's phone, accusing me of ruining their lives. "You're selfish," she wrote. I deleted it. No response needed. Their struggles weren't my fault. They'd built a house of cards on my sacrifices. And it collapsed without me. My life grew fuller. I landed a contract with a tech startup, a $1,000 project for their rebranding. I celebrated with Lisa at a taco stand, the first time I'd splurged without guilt. My apartment became a home, books on the shelf, a rug from a local market, sketches pinned to the wall. I wasn't rich, but I was free. Marietta's gossip faded, and I didn't care what they said. My worth wasn't tied to their approval anymore. The lesson sank deep. You can't pour yourself into people who don't see you. I'd given years, dollars, and pieces of myself, thinking it'd earn their love. It didn't. Cutting them off wasn't about revenge. It was about choosing me. If you're carrying someone else's load, know this: your value isn't in what you give, but in who you are. Don't let family or anyone dim your light to lift theirs. I learned to stand tall, and I'm never going back.